Welcome to the Online Success Journey podcast, your opportunity to discover and learn from entrepreneurs like yourself. This is not your typical podcast, but a place where you can get the real story and find out how real people encounter speed bumps and detours, but journey through to find success. Now here's your host for the Online Success Journey podcast, Patience.
We are back with episode 342 of the Online Success Journey. Our guest today is a successful entrepreneur who's excited to share the various steps they took to build their business. And you'll want to subscribe right now and ensure you'll never miss a journey like this one. Joining us today is Matthew Stibbe, a serial entrepreneur, CEO at Articulate Marketing Agency, specializing in the technology sector. Hello, Matthew.
Patience, hello. It's lovely to be here. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. My audience are excited to hear your story. Start by telling us one thing we are going to learn from you today that will help us on our journey to success.
If you like, I would like to talk about how to demonstrate thought leadership, how to turn the ideas in your head into something you can use for marketing.
Can't wait to hear more about that, but let's get started with the basics. Can you tell my audience a little bit about your background, about what you did before you started your own business?
Well, before I started my own business, I was at school. I actually started my first company when I was 18. So I've been a lifelong entrepreneur, but my career has been in two parts. The first half, I was a computer games entrepreneur. So I designed and developed computer games and eventually built a software development company and sold that in 2000. I took a couple of years off and became a bit of a dilettante freelance journalist, wrote about technology. And then I started Articulate Marketing, which is what I do now. And we help B2B technology companies stand out from the crowd, communicate with their customers, get more sales.
What a background, Matthew. Why do you do what you do?
Well, that's a good question. I think I enjoyed writing very much when I left Intelligent Games. And so it comes out of a passion to communicate and also out of a curiosity. I think fundamentally journalism, writing and marketing are all about understanding something well enough to communicate and kind of share that message, tell that story, talk about those benefits to people who don't have that information. It's like being an ambassador. You go into one country and you talk to them about their stuff in their language, and then you go back to your own country and try and represent one country to the other. So I think that passion for communicating, that passion for understanding how things work, that's what drives me.
Let's put man aside. How do you know you are successful?
I've heard a couple of different definitions of this. One rather glib one is a man is a success or a woman is a success if they get up in the morning and do what they want. Another version is if you do a job you love, you don't have to work. I think that's a definition of success. I like very much the story that Shunryu Suzuki said about Buddhism. The role, the heart of Buddhism is seeing things as they really are and trying to make them a bit better. I think that if you can live in the world and really understand what's going on and have your eyes open and contribute in a positive way, I think that's happiness. The last definition of happiness, I think, was John F. Kennedy quoting Socrates, but the definition of happiness is deploying your full force along lines of excellence. I quite like that as well. I think, bringing your full self to what you do and being good at it is a source of happiness, a source of eudaimonia, if you like.
What have you learned from business as a whole? Well, crikey. I'm trying very hard I keep answering in aphorisms, and I want to try and give you something that's a little bit more personal and a little bit more thought through. It's certainly managing people, leading a business is a constant work. You never solve the problem once and it's done. There are always new problems to solve, new things to experience. And I think being open to learning and being open to, accept that you can't get things perfect and exactly the way you want and stable and constant. businesses change, life is change, and the sooner you recognize that and make your peace with it, the better it is. That's probably the thing I've learned, because I'm now, I guess, 53 years old. I wish I was 43. And I've been an entrepreneur since I was 18, so
Wow.
35 years. And there are repeating patterns to it. It doesn't repeat itself exactly. So I think that's probably what I've learned.
Tell my audience about the magic moment, the day suddenly all went right for you.
The day it all went right for me. The day I met my wife, the day we got married. But you're thinking about perhaps more work-related things. I'm going to answer this slightly at a tangent. My ex-wife used to complain to me. I would sign a contract or something would go tremendously well and I would be dismissive of that success. I would be already worrying about the next thing, the next problem, the next contract, the next deal. And I think the reflecting on that, they say there's no such thing as overnight success. It takes a long time. And I think the reality is there isn't always a day where everything goes right and you just, pull it all out of a hat. Sometimes there are days when you get to reap the reward of work that you've put in for weeks or months or years beforehand. I'd just like to change the time scale a little bit on that. I get the most satisfaction now actually about seeing my colleagues and the people that I manage and the team that I lead when they succeed, when they grow, when they develop. That's a newer thing in my life, but that makes me tremendously happy.
How can a tech company differentiate itself and stand out from the crowd?
Of course, I deal with technology companies every day, and I have done for the last, almost 20 years. And the vast majority of them make two mistakes, in my opinion. They talk about their technology as if what this product can do or how it works is the most important thing. And actually, the most important thing is what you can do with the technology or how it makes you feel or what it enables you as a buyer, a user, a customer to do. So mistake number one, talking about technology. The secret to selling technology is not talking about technology, right? It's talking about emotions. It's talking about achievement. It's talking about success. It's talking about capabilities, problem solving pain points. So that's not doing that. I mean, not talking about technology, but talking about those things is the first way you can stand out from the crowd if you're a technology company. The second way, and I'm particularly thinking here about business to business, B2B tech companies, where they have they're selling professional services, they're selling to other businesses. The vast majority of technology companies very nervous about appearing different. They want to look professional. They want to look like their competitors, but just a little bit better. They want it's a bit like turning up to every meeting wearing a suit and tie. They don't want anything that makes them look unusual, quirky. And yet, if you think about the brands that you admire in the world, they tend to have a bit of attitude. They tend to be a bit different. They're not smooth, rounded pebbles. They're a bit spiky. And I think Steve Jobs may have once said, and I may be misquoting, if you are trying to be liked by everybody, you will be bland and boring, and you will not be liked by everybody. Better to be liked by a smaller number of people who really like you than a little bit by everybody.
So you are telling the tech companies or the new companies which are going to merge out, they should not try to blend in. But don't you think we feel safe once we blend in?
Well, of course, exactly. And also, if you spend all your time thinking about technology, if technology is the thing that made your company work, if you're a founder and you're deep into the technology, that's what you want to talk about. It made you. And if you spend a lot of time looking at your competitors' websites and you spend a lot of time, evaluating them and where you compete against them and what your features are and what their features are, or you have, RFPs coming in from buyers and you're being evaluated, or this happens a lot in our space, you're being evaluated by Gartner or Forrester against 20 other vendors. Of course, your competitive attention is going to be focused on, where you stand relative to your competitors. And all those things are going to make you feel safe and comfortable talking about your own stuff, talking about your technology and the competitive feature chart, and not doing anything that has too much personality. Nice bit of blandness. Don't stand out. But, Apple, they've got a personality. They're out there doing interesting things. Their website's got some edge to it. And they're hugely successful. And there are other companies, there is an Apple in every sector. There's somebody with some personality, some character, some differentiation who wants to talk about, what our technology can do for you, not how it works or what it is or what the features are.
I see. Thank you for sharing. As you mentioned that you've been in business a long time, I expect that you have met entrepreneurs. Oh, now again, there is no longer a 9 to 5. I don't know if it is a thing. 9 to 5 job anyway. So, but can anyone be an entrepreneur, or are some people cut out for it than others?
I would like to encourage people to think of entrepreneurship, of starting their own business, as a valid, legitimate career choice. Now, you might not be suited for every job on the market, and not everybody is suited or keen on becoming an entrepreneur, but it isn't as difficult or as scary as some people think. And it's not necessarily as risky. There aren't, these days, you can have a job and, the idea of a job for life, of being a salary man or a salary woman and going every day to the same company, nobody really thinks like that anymore. Well, so therefore the risk of being an entrepreneur and starting your own business is also another choice that may have some risk, but it isn't automatically riskier than going to work for another company where you might be fired or something, or the company might go bust. So, I think most people don't start their own businesses out of fear and anxiety and risk aversion. And I think that's over cautious. The attractions of being an entrepreneur, I think, are very compelling, in that you get some autonomy. I mean, certainly I'm one of the reasons why I've always run my own businesses is that I'm a bit of a control freak. I know in my personality, I like to know what's going on. I like to have mastery of the work that I'm doing and the understanding of the technology or the process or the technique of, for example, copywriting. And I don't like people telling me what to do. So, there are some big pluses. One other thought I have about entrepreneurship is I think we have in society some very bad role models for what running a business looks like, what being a leader looks like. And I write a lot about this on my blog at geekboss.com. I think that the role models that we see on television are very egotistical managers. Right? I mean, forgive me, this is going to be a bit political, but I think the TV show The Apprentice has made here in the UK, Alan Sugar, and in the US, Donald Trump, I don't like to say his name, but anyway, Donald Trump, into role models for what running a business is like. And both of them on the television show are caricatures of what running a business is like. We also have Dragon's Den in the UK, but I don't know what it's called elsewhere, but it's where people go in and pitch their ideas, and then maybe somebody invests in them. Again, it presents in the model of leadership as being very arrogant, very pushy, very belittling to other people. You're fired is the catchphrase of The Apprentice, not how can I help you get better? How do we build a business together? How do we make something amazing? How do we build this culture? So there's lots of things that happen in real leadership and real management that we don't see on television and we don't see in the movies. So I think people have a very odd idea of what it is to be a manager, a leader, an entrepreneur. And I'd like to correct that. I'd like people to think of it in a more positive way.
What is the most dangerous belief an entrepreneur can have?
The belief that I know best, right? I forget who said it, but everyone is entitled to their own opinions, but nobody is entitled to their own data. And I learned this lesson every month or two. I have an opinion about something, and then somebody brings along some data and my opinion is completely invalidated, and I've learned something and I make a better decision, and we get better as a result. So, understanding what the real data is and not deceiving yourself, I think, is very important.
What is the best way for a tech company to demonstrate the thought leadership?
So imagine you're a tech business and you've spent your life building this business up by mastering some aspect of technology or developing some piece of software or some gadget or something. So you are a tech expert, and maybe you're surrounded by other people who are experts in the technology. Fantastic. So you have all this expertise in your head. How do you get that out of your head and communicate it to other people as a way of saying, we have thought leadership, we have ideas, we have something interesting to say? So the first thing that you can do is to try and learn to communicate that in different ways. So what we're doing, turning up on a podcast and speaking about your opinions, speaking about what you know, that's one way. Writing a blog is another way. Running webinars or doing seminars is another way. Mentoring people is another way. Sharing what you learn in videos, social media. If you start with the intent of helping people and sharing what you know rather than the intent of selling, the selling will take care of itself, I think. You will communicate kind of the value of what you sell by the value of what you know. I think job number one is to get out there and share, help, communicate. Job number two is to learn how to do that better. So learn to be a better communicator, learn to write better, learn to present better, watch TED Talks and things like that. So you can see really people who are really good at communicating and work on it as a skill. It's because not every tech expert is a natural born communicator. And the third thing, I think, is to refine what you have to say. One of the things that I've learned from doing almost 18 years of blogging is you tend to repeat yourself a little bit, or you tend to explore certain ideas in depth. And there's something valuable about that depth, but there's also something valuable about going out and learning new things and integrating new knowledge with old knowledge. So if you imagine that your thought leadership, your expertise is like a well, and you're constantly drawing on that well to water the plants and bring water into the house. That's the communication bit. That's the giving out bit. You have to feed the well. You have to make sure that the well gets filled up with new water, with new information, new ideas, new thoughts. This is the journey we're all on, isn't it? Learning new things throughout our life and sharing what we learn.
If you could rerun the first year of your business, what would you definitely not do?
I think my big weakness as a manager is that I am not good at delegating. So the thing that I would write in a letter and send it back in my time machine to Matthew at the first year of his business would be delegate as much as you can and treat the process of delegation as a learning exercise and a management exercise and a leadership exercise. You succeed as a leader of a business, as an entrepreneur, precisely to the extent to which you are effective at delegating to other people. If you keep it all in your own hands, you will be a bottleneck on the growth of the business. I wish I'd known that 35 years ago. I wish I'd known that 10 years ago. I wish I'd known that last week. It's a constant problem for me, and I suspect for a lot of managers.
What is one thing that has contributed to your success?
Forgive the language, bloody-minded persistence. I think just keeping at it. In the British Army, there's this strategic concept called maintenance of the aim, which is how do you keep on trying to achieve the objective you set out for yourself, even in the face of adversity, difficulty, changes in circumstances. So I think maintenance of the aim is important in business. Sometimes the means change, the tactics change, the strategy changes, but you are still trying to achieve the same thing. Now, that's very abstract. On a much more practical level, I think I'm very good at using technology to work efficiently, and I'm always trying out new things to see if they can help me be more productive. So that sort of embrace of, try this, try this, try this, try this. So that's the inner geek in me.
What grounds you?
My cat. She comes and sits on my chest in the morning when I'm lying in bed and purrs. And for just a few minutes every day, I'm not worried about, the cash flow or the sales forecast or the, client services or the business plan for next year. I'm just petting the cat. She's a model of calm and patience and tranquility. And I think, Yuki, we call her the chief feline officer, the CFO.
Do you have mentors or coaches in your businesses?
Well, yes. I have a mentor that I've known actually for almost 20 years now. We formalized this mentor relationship a couple of years ago, but he's actually been, looking back on it, I realize that a champion for me and a mentor for me and a role model for me for a very long time. And I first worked for him at Microsoft back in 2003. So for me personally, having a mentor is very, very valuable, and I would highly recommend seeking out someone. You kind of have a duty, though, if you have a mentor, to also be a mentor, I think, to somebody. You have to pay it forward a bit. I in the UK, there's a charity called the Prince's Trust, and they match mentors with young entrepreneurs who are starting a business for the first time, often from disadvantaged backgrounds. And I did that for a few years, and I really, really enjoyed that. And currently in the business, I try to mentor my team, my senior leadership team. And we're building a mentoring program within the company so that we can match senior managers with high potential people in the company and help them grow. So much of what you learn in business is learned informally by example or by doing something or trying something. You can't read it in a book. So that mentoring relationship actually is, I think, immensely important.
What is the most valuable thing your mentor has told you?
John has a thing that he showed me right at the beginning of the mentoring relationship. And I can't remember the name of it, but it's a short YouTube documentary about a man who is interviewing film directors. And he is asking, again, forgive my language, do you have to be a dick to be a good film director? Right? And he's talking to all kinds of famous directors. And of course, some directors are dicks. I mean, they're just not very nice people, and they shout and they're aggressive and they're pushy. And do they get better films? Maybe. And then other directors are nice. In the UK, we talk about actors being lovies, very sort of soft and gentle. And some directors are lovies and like that. And do they get better results? Well, the thing that this video comes to the conclusion it reaches, and this is the conclusion John wanted me to reach, is you need to be what he calls a grudging giver. If you want to be a leader, you don't go and solve everybody's problem, and you don't try to make everybody like you. That's not your job, and that's not your priority. But you have to maintain this vision of what you're trying to achieve. You have to communicate that vision, and you have to be demanding and a little bit impatient to get the best out of other people and not just solve all their problems for them. And this grudging giver, I think, is a really nice model. My tendency is to try and solve everybody's problem all the time. And I'm learning from John's input from this rather funny and wonderful video. Just sometimes I have to say, no, I'm not going to do that for you. Could you just go away and sort it out and come back to me and tell me what you did? And actually, in that way, you help them get better, and you don't take on their problems. So you have more capacity and more time and space to do what you have to do. But you don't have to be a dick about it.
What is a B Corp and why should I care?
Well, a B Corp, the B in B Corp stands for benefit, so Benefit Corporation. And it's a movement that started in the US some years ago. The fundamental idea is that B Corps recognize that businesses can be a force for good. So practically what it means is if you are a B Corp, it means you are objectively and externally audited for your impact on the environment, on your community, on your stakeholders. And it is a measure and a standard of corporate social responsibility, environmental responsibility, being a good employer. But because it's objectively measured, it also allows you to communicate that you have achieved that standard. And so being a B Corp means going through, in our case at Articulate, about an 18-month process of reviewing all our processes and our relationships and our contracts and environmental footprint and CO2 emissions and everything to get our B Corp score up from about 35 over the threshold, which I think is 70, and the range goes up to about 180. You can score quite highly, but it's very hard to get the highest score in every category. So you meet an objective standard for being a force for good. What it doesn't mean is that you are a charity. You are a business, and I think you're a business with good intentions and good practices.
Let's talk about your company. Tell us more about it and who can use it.
So Articulate Marketing is a 18-person specialist marketing agency. We're a HubSpot Diamond partner. We use technology to help business-to-business, B2B tech companies differentiate themselves, set their marketing strategy, build amazing websites, create thought leadership content, create case studies and customer evidence, generate traffic to their website, and convert that traffic into leads and customers. So it's clever digital marketing for technology companies. And we have clients from multinationals like Dell, Microsoft, Hewlett-Packard Enterprise, and all the way down to 3-person businesses who are specialist consultancies and things like that. We don't differentiate on size, but we do differentiate or target based on ambition and willingness to embrace clever marketing techniques.
How can we connect with you?
Articulatemarketing.com is the website for the business, and if you are in need of marketing services or if you're in need of marketing advice, we have an amazing blog. I run a webinar series. There's a lot of thought leadership content there, which is free for everybody. If you need marketing help, the contact page there has a calendar link and an email, and we'd love to hear from you. On a more personal note, I blog at geekboss.com, and I write about leadership and management and a little bit about technology there. And that's just if you want to know a little bit more about me and what I think and what I do, geekboss.com.
Wow. Do you provide a one-on-one mentoring?
I do, but on a very limited basis, time being the challenge. So I have my colleagues and my staff and my priority with that. But if you would like to talk to me, if you go to articulatemarketing.com/meet, MEET, articulatemarketing.com/meet, there's a calendar meeting there. You can book up a call with me, and if you've got something interesting to say or an interesting question to ask, I'd love to hear from you.
Wow, thank you. If you are listening to this on a podcasting platform and you are encouraged by Matthew's journey, please go to our website at onlinesuccessjourney.com. In addition to the amazing free content, you can work direct with me. Check out my course, How to Set Goals and Double Your Productivity, a course for achieving success in work and life, when you visit onlinesuccessjourney.com. The site has tons of audio clips from hundreds of successful entrepreneurs' guests' journeys, all there to help you find a path to your own online success journey. The site offers exclusive members-only content, and you can join absolutely free and be part of this amazing online success community today. Check it out. That's onlinesuccessjourney.com. Now, Matthew, I would love for you to share more information with my audience if you're up for it.
Sure, fire away.
Thank you. Do you watch movies or read books?
A lot of both, but mostly I read books.
Tell us, what is your favorite book that has some relevance to being an entrepreneur?
The book that inspired me to start my own business is a book by Guy Kawasaki, who used to work at Apple and is now an entrepreneur and a VC, venture capitalist in his own right. And the book is called The Macintosh Way. It's quite old, it's quite specific to its time, but it's very witty, it's very funny, and it's very inspirational. So that's probably the book that got me into it. If you want to read a much more sort of practical book about entrepreneurship, I'm reading at the moment a book called Traction, which is about the entrepreneurial operating system, and I'd recommend that.
If your business was down to its last $100, how would you invest it?
I think this might be a bit of a cheat, but I'd probably, if everything else had gone and I had $100 in my hand, probably go to an internet cafe, and I would buy time on a computer to connect with people and set up a free website on WordPress.com just so I had a place on the internet where people could get in touch with me. Bootstrapping a business off $100 is pretty hard work, but that's what I would try and do.
If you are going to keep a note to yourself in your pocket every day, what would be written on it?
A note to myself?
Yes.
I actually have got a note to myself. I've got a Post-it note that I've had up on my desk in one place or another on my computer, and it's currently stuck to my printer over on my right. Mm-hmm. It's a Dutch phrase. I'm half Dutch, but my actual spoken Dutch isn't very good. It's the motto of the Dutch East India Company, and it says, geen zee te hoog. And what it means is no sea too high. We can sail through the worst storm and we will still get to the harbour. And I really like that, geen zee te hoog. And it's a comfort to me when things are difficult to know that I can get through it.
What is your next chapter?
So I am in the middle of, perhaps approaching the end of a journey where I'm trying to change my relationship to the business from being, how can I put it, a heroic leader, an individualist, an entrepreneur, the decision maker, the central nexus of the business. I'm trying to change from that relationship and that model to being chairman of the board, first amongst equals, leader of a management team, a leader of a group of people who can professionally run the business and take the business to the next level. It's a very exciting journey. It is actually a journey I went on with Intelligent Games because we got to about 73 people before I sold it. But doing it now in my 50s rather than my 20s I've got a lot more experience perhaps. Still quite a lot to learn. So the next chapter is I'm going to be chairman of the board of a lovely big marketing agency. That's what I want. Do
you feel like you succeeded or like you're only on the way?
On that journey, I'm on the way, but heading in the right direction.
Will you ever stop?
The funny thing is, when I sold Intelligent Games, I had a couple of years as a sabbatical. Mm-hmm. I'm not very good at being bored. Mm-hmm. I went off and I got a pilot's license and I started writing as a freelance journalist and I started writing a novel and I don't think I'd stop, but I might do something different.
Remind us how we can connect with you.
So you can come to articulatemarketing.com. There's a contact page there and you can read more about my thoughts about management and leadership at geekboss.com.
Matthew, it's been great to have you here to share your online success journey with us.
It's been my pleasure. Thank you for all the very interesting questions.
You are welcome. Remember, success is a journey. Don't wait. Let's start the journey. Patience and Matthew.
This is not the end of the journey. We hope you've enjoyed listening to Patience and her guest and want you to know that there are hundreds of episodes available at onlinesuccessjourney.com. Patience would like to thank you for listening to the podcast, and she has a free gift for you on her website, including an audio compilation of her guests' best tips, uplifting stories, and even a bit of fun. Additionally, there are special clips of over 250 episodes that have never aired on the podcast and are only available to members of the Online Success Journey. Check the website and click on Join Now to get free and instant access. Of course, you know that listening to the journeys of others helps us each chart our own path. So make sure you're subscribed on the favorite platform you have to be notified as each new interview is posted. There are so many ways to stay connected to the Online Success Journey and listen in. And if you're enjoying the podcast, we appreciate your help in telling others. One of the best ways to share the benefit you get is to rate and review the podcast at Apple Podcasts and other sites. We appreciate your help and your willingness to share the journey. One last thing. If you're feeling a bit lost or overwhelmed on your own journey, Patience can help. Check out our coaching sessions on how to set goals and double your productivity while you're at the website. Working with Patience is a great way to get back on the right path. On behalf of Patience, and until next time, thanks once more for listening. It is our hope that this podcast will guide you on your own online success journey.